going. All right, everybody, we are going to go, and this is day/part 2 of our chess tournament. And so we are going to go and get right in here in a moment. Have some people who are looking to start. So have our setup getting here, getting ready. I'm going to go ahead and pull up several of the games so that we can do that. You're done? Awesome. Thank you. Have a good one. All right. So bottom right-hand corner is RJ versus King Challenger. King Challenger was rated number 1 on the Play VS ladder. And so let's see how we do in comparison. So not going to commentate too much. Don't want to stress out our player here, but we are going to go and start getting all of the things ready. Let me go ahead and also share the link. Oh, wait, you can't see that spot. Oh, crap. Crud. Top left-hand corner. There you go. Close that one since y'all can't see that. There. Okay. Okay, Ranger BS is getting a practice round in. Oh, let me back that up. Let's just go to the profiles of people so I know who's supposed to be on what screen. Oh, I only need 4. What am I doing? Only need 4 today. Don't need the whole thing like I did last time. Okay, there we go. Got that set up. So, just a quick catch up on everything. So, Bryce Hart and Agent 456 or 5678 tied twice. Yeah, 5678. They tied twice. There was one win in favor of one of the team. One of them. Who was it? I believe it was. Yes, Agent 5678 had one win over Bryce Hart, and then there were 2 ties. And so with that, it is going to lead to them actually doing blitz. So how it goes in Play VS is that it is actually going to be, if you tie, you go into a blitz round. And so I forgot that's because of all the chaos and stuff. So. All right. So that board state is looking spicy over there. I like that. All right. Rook pinned on that, but how is it going to get out? Let's see what he does. Preventing the check, taking a relatively free knight. Okay. Okay, yeah. The knight is just going to be sacked. The queen is going to go and receive reinforcements from pawn. B5 pawn could trade in, and then B3 pawn would just trade back. Queen is already reinforced by the D1 rook line, so we'll have to wait and see. All right, queen backs up after the trade. Let's see here if this is okay. No, still just the practice match. Awesome. The rooks are staring each other down, just waiting to see. Okay, queen drops back. Good board state. Moving the rook back. Pawn advance, pawn take, take. What's it gonna be? Setting up trying to take the queen here. Let's see. We can block with rook. Queen can also just move out of threat and develop, but our back row would be a little susceptible. We're going to go and take long range out, put the king in check, force the king in the corner. Really good move. King has limited options, especially with pawn row being up front and blocking. If that f1 rook ever comes out, then it is pretty much game over just at that point. Time's going to be one of the big killers here. Let's see. Okay, going and closing in our back file. Opponent is trying to force something here, which is very scary. You know, the f6 rook to go and back up if they take. Okay, moving. Oh, trying to force the hand here of triple stacking the pieces on that. A lot of options here in trying to make it happen. Played the aggressive move right there, protecting our f8 rook, but also threatening a one row check if that rook comes off that first row. Does take. And then we take with rook, keeping our queen position up in the front. Queen to queen, threatening with the pawn up front. Trade would be very hard. They do have more pawns, so we're going to deny the trade. Take the e file down so that if they try to advance up with that, oh, okay, they're going back. We're advancing pawns, trying to get better state. They're trying to force this queen trade, and they pinned. They have a fork going, so our queen or our rook can go here, which is very not fun. But we do have the option. We're going to invite them to take, but they're going to move pawns to try to go and force out either the queen to move out into a worse state or to promote. Okay. They're trying to force out that queen. They want to take queen trades to then move that pawn up. We're going to go on opposite file. Moves down, still putting our queen at wanting to trade. Breaking this is going to be challenging without compromising our position, but we're at 90 seconds. Okay. Moving pawn up, putting pressure on left side of the board. Okay, freeing up our rook into that. E file there. Moving pawn up again. Let's check and see if anybody is playing. 60 seconds on our clock. Playing one of the other people at the school. All right, let's see, 55 seconds. All right, we're now stacking queen and, okay. Now it gets really tricky because they have to go and keep moving that pawn up, or the A file pawn up, to keep protecting that other pawn on the B file. If they don't, then they'll have to move their queen off the rook file, and to do that, all right, we're going to just post up front of the pawn, prevent it from moving forward. They're going to move it up one and try to go two. Keep putting pressure on. 25 seconds. That's a no-win scenario right there. We can queen trade and they have rook up. If we'd move rook up, then it's just, yeah, okay, that's going to be take, pawn forward, take other pawn, their pawn forward. We're moving to A file. And then kings in check, and then queen to then timeout. Whew, Archer, that was really well done. Still a best of three, though, so you still got something to go with. All right, that's going to be game one in favor of King Challenger. RJ is white going on and open strong, very standard mirror opening going on here. Okay, still just getting positioning here. Moving the queen open. Okay, takes, sets up open R. Yep, we predicted that. Pawn forward. Queen moves back. moving it up to get some. Ooh, we got a fort going on. All right, taking the bishop now. Queen's a threat, but then the rook is there to take. Now the rook is pinned, but we can go pawn to d4 to go and at least block it one turn, but we're still not solving the problem. So we do have a hung rook. How do we resolve it? Ooh, very good play. Moving the knight up so that he can then trade effectively without sacking the queen or moving the queen out of position to keep reinforcing that D row. The D angle row on the white tiles over there. Okay, queen moving over into threatening the knight and the king de facto. Only has that on that blue line, so we can just go reinforce with queen, move pawn forward. Can't move knight out of the way because it's not going to really be defensible. Okay. Reinforce the knight with the queen. Pawn's moving up to kind of take that. Yeah, take the e4 pawn, threatening again the d3 pawn on that. All right, a lot of trading going on right there, which is very good. Okay. That's interesting, but they do have a pretty good position with their rook reinforcing the D line. Oh, putting pressure on that back rook as well as that 7 pawn. All right. Okay, we take on that. They can't take with pawn without losing their queen. Queen to reinforce the b7 pawn as well as the d5 pawn. So we do see a lot of options on the board here on how to develop this game further. We still have to keep in mind the 8H or 8F rook. about to see Bryce Hart start here in a moment. Let's see if Ranger is still just warming up. No, Ranger is playing Prabhu Sarvesh now. So looks like we're still in first game. Prabhu Sarvesh is up 3. Or no, okay, it reset. All right, there we go. It's just 1-1 in takes. All right. Okay. Still waiting on that one. Oh no. He didn't take the queen. Prabhu Sarvesh has the queen. Holy. Over here we see a very intense trade right now where it's a lot. King moving back. Okay, we take knight, they take pawn, they take with pawn. Okay, they take. Took rook with rook. Let me see who that one's person is. H Doggy is Jones. Right. All right, that is going to be a 2-0 win to King Challenger over RJ. Very good matches, though. Very, very good matches. King Challenger is moving on, maintaining that first place right there. RJ, it was a good job. You did really good. Obviously, you saw he's 2153, so, but very well done. You did very great. All right, let's see here. I just want to show me profile. There we go. All right, Prabhu Sarvesh and Ranger BS are still going. It is still two pieces. One is a Ranger has taken two knights, and then Prabhu Sarvesh has taken a knight and a bishop. Got a very interesting interlocking of the pawn pieces here, and we're looking to just force double rook through with queen support and pawn support through right now. This is going to be very interesting playthrough. All right, agent is about to sign in. So let's see if they have started. All right, yep, they are live. So it's 5-minute blitz, so it's going to be a lot faster paced. All right. So this is going to be the match between Bryce Hart and Agent 5678. That was technically last round, but they went 1-0-2. And then you see there was a tie going on, but again, ties don't count in play vs rules, which is what we're using as a standard. So round 2 is technically going to be played back in this 5-minute blitz. So we'll see who wins round 2 in this 5-minute blitz right here. So that is how that one's going to be determined. And then Slickback and H Doggy, we are waiting on them right now. We got Slickback. H Doggy has not arrived just yet. So waiting on that one. Colombian Kid is just waiting on their opponent. Yeah, so let me see if I can. Friend request sent for that one, so we'll see when and if they show up, if they accept, etc. So, all right, agent is up by 1 value with a pawn right now, but the game just started. So it's a very interesting take on a double knight opening called the King's Indian Attack, with using the knights to kind of take over the centerpieces with, as well as reinforcing with the pawns, but then also being able to take the outsides in case you see bishops try to move on the outsides early. And so now you have a pawn to take by knight. Knight is then going to take knight, and that's going to set up a take by the rook, which is then a free take. So both are in same point values in numerical pieces, but board state wise, Bryce Hart has a more open middle with the pawns opening and then kind of being a little bit held back further, while Agent has a little bit more of an angled advantage on our left side because of the double bishops kind of staggering out from this side right here. Prabhu Sarvesh is going in and is queen in with, yeah, the knight. That's going to just take that. Okay, that's tragic. Okay. All right. Jeez. Sorry, just kidding. Well, sorry, news. My sister. All right, moving on right here. So Bryce Hart is up in value by 3 technical, it says, but now it's even, which is strange. It keeps popping up 3 value down here, but then eliminating it immediately. Prabhu Sarvesh, it says up is 2 values, so up in 2 pawns, but both have lost queen and 1 knight. Prabhu Sarvesh has taken a bishop, while Ranger has taken both of the knights. So all right. Prabhu does have a very interesting setup right here. Currently, the rook is being threatened by that bishop, which is protected. And so I'm going to go take that, and then the rook is able to then trade that back. And then over here, agent is progressing forward with the queen on... Oh, we see a checkmate. Holy. Yo. I did not read that coming. Holy, the queen was just chilling there. Jeez. Okay, so that's 1-1, right? Yeah. Let me double check. Holy crap, that was so fast. I didn't even really recognize it. My gosh. Okay, so yeah, agent had 1 win. Bryce Hart brings it to 1-1. Okay, that was swift and brutal right there. My gosh, that was hilarious to watch. All right, H Doggy is here. Let's see, is H Doggy playing? H Doggy and Slickback are playing. Thank you very much. Got that one. And now we're going to wait on Bryce Hart over here to get that next one since that's 1-1. Awesome. Got that friend request going. Now we wait for that one. My gosh, that was swift. All right, Slickback and H Doggy are over here playing. We see the double knight open on Slickback's side, with H Doggy going and leveraging on the left-hand side with the knight pawn advanced opening right here. This kind of gives an illusion of how much space the pawns have in the middle necessarily, with the capability of the knight being able to take and then the bishop being able to slant early and take other spots as well. So, all right, Prabhu Sarvesh is going to take down Ranger 1-0 right now. So we keep moving on into our next one for that one. It should start when they re-up. So okay. Still waiting on that one to pop up. All right. Slickback with actually more value right now. They took a knight and a pawn as opposed to 2 pawns on each doggy side. All right. All right, Bryce Hart and Agent are about to go into match number 3. And then Agent is going to take white to start. Refresh this page to see if it's just hung up on something. Okay, Bryce Hart has started. There we go. Boom. That was a rapid start. There you go. Less than 10 seconds going in. All right. There we go. Ranger BS and Prabhu Sarvesh are starting right now. And all 3 of our games are going to be live. So Slickback and H Doggy are still just relatively, it's still even. Slickback does have value with the knight take, but the queen trade did occur. Agent and Bryce Hart did take it to 1-1 in the series. And then Prabhu Sarvesh and Ranger BS are still waiting to start on that one. Not sure why we haven't moved necessarily. It might, they actually haven't started. I don't know. The problem with online tournaments sometimes is communication. So, but you get what you get, and we're just here to have fun, compete. So, all right. Building a little nest egg right here of H Doggy. You have both of our knights here holding hands so that if this 7 row right here manages to get taken out or moved forward, then you'd have both of your rooks here able to advance on this open space or trade in the early if one is taken, etc. Slickback does have a lot of force being projected out here with some pawn advancements out here with being that, and then we also have a knight up here threatening this piece if this king ever moves over, or if, well, really, yeah, that's it. If the king moves over, then that can go in there, take a check on that, as well as possibly trade into one of these other rooks. All right, agent castles. Well, Bryce Hart is still advancing forward with knights and pawns in tandem. All right, I'm gonna have to message to see if Prabhu Sarvesh and Ranger are good. Let's first see who is. All right, Ranger is Howard with Prabhu Sarvesh also being Howard. Yeah, okay. All right, waiting on that. So, all right. The little nest egg is being attacked over here. Pawns have kind of disappeared out, and then we're seeing a furthering advance of more moving on. Okay, they're about to start their next match over here. Having the same coach. There we go. That's better. Awesome. Hopefully that's going to start there in a moment. And then Bryce Hart and Agent are still only 1-1 piece. Oh my gosh, checkmate. Slickback checkmated from the double knight stack. Holy. Ouch, that is brutal. Can't move up because of this, can't move down because of that, but then this also puts that in check. Can't take either because this one takes, but this one still is the one putting in check. That was devious. That was very devious. All right. Moving on into game number 2 on that one. Are these two going to start? Is it my issue? Is it my screen? What's going on? Ranger. Okay, apparently it was my screen. I just didn't need to click refresh. I needed to actually watch them. So, all right. All right, H-Dog and Slickback are going. Slickback has 1-0. Agent and Bryce Hart are still going. We do see now a pinned knight, double pinned knight actually off on E7 as well as in C6 from the double bishop moving forward. But pawns can definitely make a little bit of worthwhile movement on that. I did hear some sort of ping. Is that stream? That's not stream. I don't think I got messaged. No idea. I heard a ping. Oh well. I heard it again. Is it on my laptop? Is that why? Okay, cool. All right. Yes. Good. Ooh, Slickback is double knighting up again in mirror with H-Doggy right there. Moving the bishop back so that it doesn't get taken unnecessarily. Agent and Bryce are still kind of doing the tango. Bryce does have up a little bit of point value from the knight instead of the pawns. Ranger and Prabhu Sarvesh are relatively even instead of one bishop and one knight. They have taken each of the others on that. Ranger is currently trapped only has 2. Yeah, that's very scary because that's. Oh, he's pinned. King is pinned on Ranger up here. Lost the queen. Can't move either side. I mean, you can take it now, but now you have this, so it needs to be rook taking queen, knight takes rook, and probably Sarvesh is still up a ton of value and much better board state with points. Okay. Let's see, how does Ranger respond to that? We're going to focus on this one for a moment. This one over here is still progressing slowly. All right, there you go. Boom. We see. And a checkmate from Prabhu Sarvesh. Oh my gosh, that's brutal. Oh, that's so brutal right there. Yep. That was just boxed into a corner. You couldn't move anything else. That was very well played by Prabhu Sarvesh right there. That's a 2-0 win over Ranger. All right, Prabhu Sarvesh and King Challenger moving forward. 2 of the Walton students are going in. So, gonna go put Prabhu Sarvesh up on the screen. Let's see. I don't want that yet. It's gonna do that to me. Add friend. That's why Prabhu Sarvesh is not on my friends list. That's why. All right, moving over here. Oh, shoot, I didn't mean to do that. All right, so Agent and Bryce Hart are going. Bryce Hart does have point value with having, instead of 2 pawns, it is a knight and a bishop now. Bryce Hart's board state is a little more condensed with having castled in and the pawns still being kind of staggered, especially with that bishop holding the blue spaces on the angles. Slickback and H-Doggy. Slickback does have queen under threat. Can take that with the bishop. Rook can come down on the c file and take. Currently, nothing can be done about that, and so we have to wait and see how is it going to be finished out in that series of events. Got a golf update from our golf team. Cool. All right, so, Bryce Hart is being pressured out by that bishop right there. Okay. All right, how Slickback responded was just moving the knight back 1, keeping it on that 5 route so that it can pivot towards far side if necessary. Can look to start developing the queen and start threatening out that castle side, or we can start moving further down. But Slickback also has now built kind of a miniature fortress around them with a little bit of extra space. All right, moving that. Knight came down to take. Pawn's aggressive moving forward on that knight. Since it also is a double move, we might see an en passant. Nope, not an en passant. We're going to see the pawn or the bishop move over. And that's okay. Queen's going to move out and then threaten that D row because, yeah, that's dangerous. We're about to see a pretty nasty fork right here, but he denies it actually by moving out of the D space before. Bryce Hart, again, is being pressured by Agent by that queen now. Let's see how it's responded. The queen's going to move up. Definitely going to try to force a trade here, unless if Agent goes all the way back and gives up all that space. Does he give that space, or does he trade queens? Agent only does have 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Does take the queen trade. Takes the knight up, giving some breathing room to that king. With that, only that one space of breathing room on h8, but now has a little bit more room. Let's see over here. H-Dog and Slickback are going. We see the knight moving down. It is threatened by the rook, but then the pawn's going to move forward so that it's not a bad trade. Going to try to either force a trade out from either of the knight or, forcing space. Ooh, rook on rook file right here. Might be trying to pressure out that queen on d2. Oh, yep, and then we're going to see the rook respond to try to reinforce that space. Let's see what happens next. On the left-hand side, Agent is down to 2 minutes and 6 seconds, and Bryce Hart is going and using his time. Agent has cleaned up to a nice little castle in the back row with double rook attaching, keeping that back row pretty secure so far. Bryce Hart does have double rooks again, but doesn't have the same castle formation right there. We are going to see the knight move up, get that bishop on b7 available to taking the space in front of the king. Might be looking to make an advance on that with knight in tandem as well. Our h5 knight could go and start helping opening up that 2G pawn space and putting some pressure in the front space and eliminating that castle. Slickback and H-Doggy are moving forward. We're going to see some queen trading out, putting pressure on rook, and then backfile rook is going to go and challenge the queen. It is supported by queen. Agent and Bryce are trading. Pawn moving up, threatening the knight. H-Doggy and Slickback. Queen moves back out of the trade space. Bryce Hart moves it up. Is possibly going to look at taking out the F1 or the F1 rook with a knight move up. We'll see. Queen is moving, or pawn is moving up to go and put a little bit more breathing room for him so he doesn't get checkmaited like we saw earlier with the king having no move space. H-Doggy is trying to do similar with getting more space open on pawns so that he can't get checked out from a distance. Agent is moving the knight back, and then we're going to see a trade. That was a lightning fast trade. That was definitely pre-moved. And then the open space is open. We're going to see now the knight move forward, definitely looking to take that h3. The king goes to protect. How is this going to happen? Are we going to see a knight advancing forward from c4 up to try to force out? Yep, trying to force out that rook on that back file or get it into a trade. Moves it over, definitely threatening that row. We're then going to see that knight move over, put that in a check. Both knights are at risk here. So how do you resolve this problem? Knights are not currently capable of protecting each other. They are L-shaped, so it's not going to be enough. You can only protect one with the current state. And so back one, we then see now actually, that takes one. Other one is at risk of being taken by the rook if it's not moved. Unless we're threatening the other one. Moving over, though. We now see rook side by side. That's very dangerous for that. Slickback and H-Doggy, we see queens moving from side to side. The D2 rook is hanging on Slickback's side. Takes that trade. Both rooks are gone. It is now just up to queens and some other support pieces. Slickback does have 5 value. Bryce Hart and Agent are going. Agent does have less time. Bryce Hart then goes. We're trading rooks. Trying to remove some pawn pieces off the board, putting the king in check. Agent is offering a draw. Bryce Hart declines the draw. Okay, king is moving back. Okay, trade. Bryce Hart is going to move up, try to promote to a queen ASAP. Does lose both pawns, does get it, checks. Is this it? Is Bryce going to take it on a reverse? Moves over, checks the king. King moves out of check, does take pawn. Is progressing another piece, moves up, trying to keep that king in that quadrant without doing much. Now we see pawn head to head, blocks off that h4, now h5 pawn. Moving up, is moving up. Double queen. We're going to see queen moves over, king is in check, king moves in front. King has to give up that pawn. Now the question is, can he do it without stalemating? How do you do this without stalemating? Okay, forcing the queen on the opposite side, having to restart the whole thing. Queen does take that lone pawn, and now we see the long-standing shuffle. Oh, here we go. The slow march to death. And that is going to be checkmate for Bryce Hart. Oh, that was close. All right, that is going to be Bryce Hart taking 2-1 over Agent. Whew. That was a very close match. All right, Bryce Hart is on to Colombian Kid now. All right. My alarm tells me 4:30. All right, H Doggy is taken down in time. Only 22 seconds over here on this side. Trickling further and further. Is it about to be a slick back 2-0, partial to time? Oh, here we go. Let's see. What do we got? That's going to be a timeout victory. Slickback 2-0 over H Doggy. All right. Slickback is moving on into playing King Challenger. So moving up the bracket. All right. Let me move the bracket over so that y'all can see what the bracket currently looks like. Let's just go have it take up the whole screen. So this is what the bracket has looked like so far. This one right here was a 2-0. This one was a 2-0. This one was a 2-0. And then this one was 3-2 because of some, went back and forth. I remember that. All right, QQ 9100 Colombian Kid. QQ never showed, so Colombian Kid won 2-0. Mr. Tech Support and Panth is going to be 2-0 for Panth. Then Pinhart and Agent, that one was going back and forth for a bit. Agent then did win out 2-0. Bryce Hart and JFMRF is going to go 2-0 for Bryce Hart. Conman Scammer and Log goes 3-1. Prabhu Servish and Pawn Paragon are going to play. That's 2-1. Ranger beats Zero Kuromi 2-0. Equity and Christopher go 2-0. Blue Crabs Minute Hands. That one is, remember, they streamed that match. That was. It's private school. I'm blanking on the name. Oh my gosh. Hebron Christian Academy. There you go. Boom. I remembered. And then H Doggy and Ryan Wright. That's going to be 2-0. G Xavier Welty. That was I'm Lionheart. Yes. They won 2-0 over I Hate Poetry. Slickback and Jalil was 2-0. Vega Radion was REN. Vega Radion won the first match, and then REN didn't realize it was a best of 3, so they forfeit the third one. And then One Hick Filet and Clown High 5203. That's going to be a 2-1. Ethan Correa is going to be 2-0 over Error R because they didn't show. King Challenger and then Toru was a 2-0. Then King Challenger and Ethan Correa was 2-0. Clown High and Vega Radion was 2-1. Slickback and Lionheart was 2-0. H-Doggy Blue Crabs was 2-0. Equity and Ranger was 2-1. Probably Sarvish, Conman's Gamer was 2-0. Bryce Hart and Agent, we just watched that one. And then Panther Colombian Kid was 2-0. So that is what the bracket currently is going to be up. All right, so Bryce is looking to get things going. All right, so now we are progressing into... We have King Challenger and Slickback about to play. King Challenger and Slickback, I believe, have just started. Yep, there we go. Boom. Okay, they've been going for a minute. Sorry. All right. Pawn trade, but King Challenger is up one material in pawns. And then Colombian Kid and Bryce Hart are going to be playing here when that is done. So we're at 3, so I can close the one on the right. Try to divide this a little more evenly so that all 3 games have equal amount of space. So right. All right, the queen trade comes out. The challenger is up value in 2 bishops versus the 1 knight that Slickback does have. All right, Bryce is going to be sending the challenge again, so we'll get to see that match here in a moment. And then Prabhu Sarvesh gets to wait until Colombian Kid Bryce Hart are done. So I can go ahead and actually close this for us to get 2 because we're only going to be watching 2 at a time now. Now I can go 50-50. Let me divide it 50 on that. So, all right, King Challenger and Slickback are over here on the right, and we're waiting on the match from Bryce Hart and Colombian Kid to start. All right, looks like it just started. And it did. Awesome. All right. So Colombian Kid and Bryce Hart are there. Standard start so far. So we'll let left side develop a little bit. Right side has well into developed right here. King Challenger is taking some value here still, but not much still has changed. King Challenger does have is going to take that knight right off of Slickback. King takes. We see knight move forward, put king under check. We do see the bishop on that white line starting on b5. So what are we going to see now? That knight can't go put that rook in check. The king can move. We're not going to castle because I believe we can't. I believe couldn't castle because the king had to take. Oh, we're going to see a dangerous move where we're actually going to see both rooks moving up. So, but the c2 pawn is still there. So we still do see some protection there where they can't just double slant down and to try to take. And then Slickback is going to try to pressure out that bishop on b5. Then we do see a trade actually being taken right there. So King Challenger does have a pawn up on 5a. c4 rook to put pressure on the knight on e4. We're actually going to reinforce it instead of giving the space. Pawn moving up to threaten the 3a pawn. King moves up, puts the rook under threat. Does d8 rook back it up? Does rook back up? Or does rook can't move forward onto c3 because knight would take. So that's definitely a no-go. Does move out 1 towards d4. So we are still seeing that file on the d file with the double rooks being stacked. Okay. Pawn moving down on that slant row so that we can put this knight under attack. And then let's check on the other side. Ricehart and Colombian Kid are going to be going at it. Still no value taken from either side, just board state. So Brycehart does go in castle. We do see kind of a more defensive posture with the knights towards the middle, and the bishops on the side, kind of trying to take that middle space out. Colombian Kid is going to go and set up a pawn stack on that with the queen and the knight kind of reinforcing the open space as well as the backline. Moving that bishop up, checking back over here, we are seeing some fast movement. Slickback is trying to go and get that pawn up. And now Slickback has no... Oh, okay, escaping. Does get out. All right. Is it... Okay, no, it's a checkmate. I thought it was going to be a stalemate, but they did move the right piece of the right space. Double knight opening. Yeah, double knight opening for Slickback. King Challenger does go move pawn up to develop that mid space a little bit, get some pressure out. Slickback does do the double up because they have the double knight protection. See an early castle from King Challenger, trying to let the other team develop out to see what they're going to do. They're going to take Bishop Central. Does open that line up by moving the pawn forward, though. We're going to see knight move up after the castle on Slickback's side. See double knight in the middle for both opponents on right side. Checking in back on Colombian Kid and Brycehart. It's double knight traded so far, single knight traded on both sides. Brycehart does have the knight, does have the bishop threatening the rook on a8. Kind of impossible to protect it. So really your only option there, oh, we're going to leave it hanging. Moving the pawn up. Not willing to go and try to protect it. They do take. We then move our bishop up. Only one space. The bishop moves back. We castle on that side. Brycehart is up 5 value because of the rook take. So that is very hard right there. We did castle to try to compensate for the lack of double rooks. Queen is still sitting up with front as well as the bishop to kind of have that angled space as well as the straight space in front a little bit more protected. Okay, Slickback and King Challenger, we are going to see a 5 value over because Slickback has only taken a pawn, while King Challenger has taken a knight and a bishop. Slickback is being pressured, but move the queen up to try to stem some of that pressure right there. But King Challenger is not going to take no for an answer. Going to see that trade. And that was pawn for bishop. Pawn moving up, trying to, again, get some, but we're going to see still a loss of value on that side. Slickback is going to be able to trade that back. Most likely moving pawn up. Yep, moving pawn up into that space so that we still have that pawn line. We're going to see the bishop move down to threaten the knight. The knight retreats back into space. King Challenger does have capability to launch some pretty nasty quick attacks if necessary. With that f7 rook being there, it kind of opens up that line to being able to be attacked. We see that bishop move up, threatening the e4 pawn, which would tempt kind of the pawn to move forward. But now it is the queen actually moving up, threatening that f2 pawn. So you could see here in a moment. Yep, so they're going to go and they're going to take that pawn out. And then now the whole back line is open, actually. All right. This is very dangerous. We see that is off that row. And so that f3 pawn is still very much so vulnerable. If the c5 pawn moves up at all, that knight could take. Okay, we're going to back up and reinforce it. Double stack that rook pressure forward from e5. Back on the other side, Colombian Kid, Brycehart. No pieces further have been exchanged. We're still just exchanging trade or exchanging positions. Bryce Hart still has kind of a more spearhead front visual. Have a good one. Okay. It's time on Colombian Kid and Bryce Hart is 6 minutes and 6:30. Slick back and King Challenger is 8 and 7 respectively. We are going to see King Challenger going and pressuring out that rook, but then bringing in the knight to protect it, but also fork the queen. So get the queen out. Do we go and attack the bishop, or do we just keep it there to keep that queen pressed back further? Let's see what we got. We do have the capability of taking the... Okay, we're going to go in. That's interesting. They are going in. It's definitely wanting a trade. What trade is it going to be is the question. King Challenger can't take anything first. They can go and then actually, you do see the fork on that, which is hard. So if you're slick back, do you take the knight or do you take the bishop or do you try to back up? Because, okay, we're taking the knight. The rook should take the rook. Yep, and then knight will probably just move back. Nope, okay, ooh. This is interesting. We're trying to force it here. Okay. Take. King. We pre-moved and we lost our rook. Oh, Slickback only has pawns and a king now. Oh no. Oh no, we're being chased. We're being chased around the world. Oh, it's checkmate. 2-0 King Challenger. Oh, that was really well played for a long, long while right there. Slickback is going to fall 2-0 to King Challenger. King Challenger definitely so far has earned that first place title. Going to finals right here. Oof. All right. Bryce Hart and Colombian Kid are what we're going to see next. Right here. So value is still in favor of Bryce Hart with that rook take, but Colombian Kid did take a pawn and a bishop. Bryce Hart also did take a bishop since we last commentated over there. So we do see a more aggressive stance now from Bryce Hart. Colombian Kid is still playing a little more on the defensive side, but still a little bit more under pressure. Okay, let's go ahead, pull up Challenger's page so we can see when he plays next. And I did it again. Trying to see how I can pull up the match history without opening it up in the separate tab, but it might just, yeah. Let's just put it up over here on the side. 11th grade. So another year of terrorizing the GHSA. Wow. USCF certified Class A player. Earned the AIM Arena International Master title from the FIDE tournament. Throughout my chess career, won over 50 awards, 6 placements at state champions, 2018 North Carolina Scholastic, the closed, the 19 North Carolina Scholastic, 2019 Georgia Grades competition, the 2019 Georgia Class competition, the 2020 Class competition, and 2 at nationals. Holy! The 5th, number 5, 11th grader, and number 17 high schooler in the state of Georgia. Holy crud. Jeez. Candidates Tournament Zurich in 1953 by Bronstein. Outside my own games, follow Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru, Levi Rosman is going to definitely appreciate that. Part of a chess video. That's definitely something to watch outside. But moving on over here, still have a game to co-commentate. Bryce Hart and Colombian Kid are going. Colombian Kid did take another bishop. I'm losing track of names here. Bryce Hart did take the second knight in turn. So Colombian Kid does have the double bishop take, while the Bryce Hart does take the double knight take. So Bryce Hart still with that 5 value, though, with that rook. That one's very hard right there. Okay, we're both around 2 minutes for both of our players here. Apologies. Okay, Bryce Hart is moving the knight back over to support that pawn piece and get the queen free from supporting that. So the queen can do some more damage on the opposite side of the board, hopefully. All right, does take that over to get and threaten that knight if the queen is moved. Does actually move it up out of threat in any ways, but it's no longer protecting that pawn. Does have a way to situate it actually back into protecting it, but it would actually allow, it would then pretty much force the 6A pawn to be on an island. So it's kind of, where do you develop? What do you want? We actually do have a pretty nasty move, but opponent did read it. Colombian Kid did read it. Knight could have moved up to 6D and put a fork on the queen as well as the bishop, but the bishop moves back to cover that space. So what is Bryce Hart going to do? Is Bryce Hart going to play a little more aggressive here, try to take over with this little bit of mid space that we do see him having here? How is it going to go? All right, yep, knight does move over, leaving that pawn on an island, which, tragedy. But it still currently is protected by this, only in the sense, though, if the queen stays here, which, again, The purpose is the queen not to stay here. Queen needs to move over onto this side over here and to start threatening these spaces over here. So, all right, Colombian Kid does have 45 seconds. Braceheart is not too far behind at the minute 30. So we do need to see picking up the pace a little bit. Okay, that is very bold right there. We do see the knight moving up, threatening both pieces, but the queen can take, but it is supported by the pawn, so it would be a loss. We then see that the bishop is going to be the more worthwhile piece, therefore that's going to take that, and then we're going to see the queen move over, take it. And now 35 seconds, a minute and 9. Queen moves up. What are we going to see here? Bishop moves back. We're seeing the rook move over into the b file under the assumption of moving forward to possibly take that trade with that pawn on c5. Does take it. We're then going to see move up. Queen is the threat. Queen moves out. Do we see? Yep, queen is going to move over, threatening the a7 pawn. We're going to see queen take. No. Oh, we're going to see the rook move up, and it's going to force out that queen, going and threatening the pawn. Queen is going to take it, protecting the pawn as well as taking that pawn, opening that free space up. And then I'm going to see that move over, protecting the d5 pawn, preventing that d6 pawn from moving forward. Moving forward 7 seconds on the clock. Pawn moving forward. Double queen is now live. We're now going to see the b8 rook move over. And instead, it's going to be a timeout. 1-0 in favor of Bryce Hart right there. Oof. Very well played on the patience right there. All right, we're back in it. I need to take a picture of this kid's stuff because, my gosh, I need to send it to some people that I know. Jeez. All right, so we do see some relatively standard openings of the closed Sicilian defense. King is going to be castled on Colombian Kid's side. He's going to pressure forward with the knight. Then going to see castle. Queen moves up, threatening the f7 pawn, with also backup from the the knight. But we do see the rook is right there, but also the queen is 1 space away. So Bryce Hart is still very comfortable with how it is currently situated. He's going to advance the pawn forward into central space, try to take that center control. Okay, queen is going to be moved over actually into the opposite side. We're going to move that forward to actually get it supported by the bishops. Very well played from both players in pivoting on offense and defense. All right, let's see here. We're going to move the knight back, try to go and reset on our advance here. Pawn line moving up, desperately trying to take that central space. So we do see a take. Does knight take and then knight take and then queen take? No, bishop takes far on the queen. Holy! Queen was left accidentally hanging from that last pawn move up. That e6 to e5 pawn was actually not for that. It was explicitly to take that queen. My gosh, that was crazy. King file is open. That's very, very tragic for that castle. So Knight does move up. Knight does take pawn. Knight can take pawn back, but then queen advances up into material state, then threatening that knight on f3. Denies it, actually. We're then going to go and see moving over into e4, supported by the bishop. So how do we go and keep it going? We're moving up, trying to further in on that open castle now. All right, going and putting pressure on the f7 pawn with our bishop. We're going to put the king in check. Move the king back to h1 in a corner. How are we going to do this here? A lot of our pieces would starting to be developed, which is a little bit harder to manage. We're going to develop out a knight, though. We're going to develop out a knight. We do have some level of advantage here with our knights and being able to kind of pincer in this side right here and keep the king in that corner, but also the pawns not being developed out on Colovian's kid's side is going to hinder that bishop from moving. But now, as I say it, it's going to happen. Yep, this is what I'm talking about here. So Brycehart's going to move his knight into the d4 space, which technically knight can trade for knight, but pawn is supporting, and so it would be positional advantage for Bryce Hart with the queen. Okay, actually going to deny. So now does he go? Huh. Okay. Can take the knight and going into the c2. Yeah, could go c2 and then try to take out the far rook that's currently just trapped. Or we can move into e2 and further in that g1 file, g1 space right there, that g file, to be even more protected. Queen is moving up. We are going to see some movement going here. The question is where? Technically, knight can go into f2, put the king under check, force the rook up, but the knight on e4 does still protect that pawn. So how do we get rid of it? We could technically go f7 to f5 pawn, but that puts our king in check, so we can't. So we have to rethink that. The knight is going to move away, actually, into not protecting the pawn, therefore not taking that trade. We're then going to see the knight moving up, put the king in check. That knight on e4 is able to take, but doesn't. The king moves out. What do we do here? We could go d4 knight to f3, put it into check. Not mate, close. And then, However, the d2 knight would be able to take the f3 knight out of check, the king out of check. So that's kind of a wonky trade. Yeah, we're gonna move back. We're gonna put both the knight and the bishop at check, and it's gonna be taken for our troubles. The queen does get to take that for free. Puts the king in check, and then puts the knight as the sacrificial piece. We're then going to see knight moves up into e2, putting the king under check, taking then, yep, king has to move. Can move down, but both are really bad options. Again, winding that further there, because that knight might be gone. That knight, okay, does move down. Knight is not gone yet, but still is not a great space. So does move down, does put into check. King cannot move to g3, can move to h3, but bishop is there for the retakes. And then, yeah, that was the issue. That rook is now toasted. Yeah. Traded out the knight, but lost the rook. So Colobian Kid is down both rooks. So how does Colobian Kid respond? You heading out, RJ? So look at this. The kid that you were playing, he's a nationally ranked player. He's played for the US Open. I didn't read it until just now. That's crazy. You did great though. So keep it up. Have a good one. All right, it is just me now. All right, we're gonna see pawn takes up on the. I believe that was a bishop there. So how do we keep on going? Colombian Kid does go move pawn or move knight to take pawn. And then what do we got next? We can go and technically queen can move over into c2 and then threaten that space as well as basically pin the knight into more or less protecting the king. That knight, I'm pretty sure is just gone, sadly. Nope, he does have one protective. Yep, there's the one protective move, which is pretty good. It's also protected by the pawn, so we have ourselves a pretty good defense here. If we could take out that bishop, but even then the pawn and the bishop are protecting. So yeah, you have yourself a pretty nice little circle here. We're moving the pawn up into the space to try to go and actually move the bishop out of protective range so the queen can take it out, or the pawn can just take. We're going to go and break the protective loop. Still protect, though. Prioritize that knight. We could see f7 pawn to move to f5, or we're going to see the d8 or rook move to d8, threatening that bishop. Bishop is in a tight space. Colombian Kid does have some moves to try to make some decent trades out here, but again, limited by pieces. King is already off the back row. It is close. Time-wise, they're still relatively even. Colombian Kid is down 1 minute, but they both do take their time on the occasion. What is Colombian Kid going to do? Okay, does move up. Protected by the knight and the pawn. But now that pawn is able to be taken, which is going to be taken by the rook. So the knights are holding formation in protective stance. The bishop is being protected by the pawn, and the pawn is being protected by the bishop. But also the bishop is being protected by the knight. So you might see a pawn advance from the a7 category up and to try to get that bishop out. Or you might just see the 6 file on the left side. Bryce Hart might just move that one forward, keep moving into either checkmating the king or getting a double queen into a checkmate. So time is slipping now. We do see a 2-minute differential. Very, very tight moves right here. King does move over. All right, how's Bryce Hart going to respond? Do we develop the pawns on the left? Do we develop the pawns on the right? Do we move the rook out and leverage out our double rook advantage? We're actually going to see the rook move up and then opening up. Yep, take that trade, move that trade out. King is in check. King moves down. We then can see queen moving to e3. Yep, putting him in check again. King has to move up to g2, or yep, down to g4. And then now we're at a very interesting moment. So we can see the f7 pawn or the h6 moving to h5, putting the king in check. King has to move to the left, has to move into h4, right? Yes. And then, huh. All right, Colombian kid just resigns. That is going to be a 2-0 victory right there for Bryce Hart. Bryce Hart is moving on to Prabhu Sarvesh. Bryce Hart is on a roll today. King Challenger is just waiting. Having that international knowledge right there definitely has shown in this tournament as a whole. Yeah, my peak rating is 1400, and I'm pretty sure right now if I tried, I'd be closer to a 1300 at the best. Yes, Max Chess Gaming, appreciate you. All right, so now we need to go and get Prabhu Sarvesh and Bryce Hart. Let's see here. Refresh. And then friends. Let's look and see. So nothing currently is moving. Probably giving Bryce Hart a moment to breathe after the definitely playing the most amount of games today because had to play the games over from last week. So all right. So Prabhu Sarvesh versus Bryce Hart. Prabhu Sarvesh is one of Mr. Whit Hubbard at Walton. So there's currently 2 Walton kids in the competition, and then Bryce Hart is from. I had it in my head. Had it in my head. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Mm. Where? Okay, Bryce Hart is from Brooks County. Mr. Holtz. Mr. Holt is the coach. Let's look and see. Let's pull up the Play VS ladder here and let's look and see how everybody ranks up on that and see if this is also a rematch possibly. Let's see what we got. Standings, chess. What? 20 moves in. What? Why is it not loading for me? Okay. All right. Okay, there we go. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Mr. William, Mr. Holt. All right, there we go. Okay, that game's going. Let's play a little catch up right here. Let's go back to the opening here. So, knight opening, pawn move forward, and then moving up. We see the bishop moving up. We're going to see an early castle from Bryce Hart, and then early leverage again with the bishops moving up, opening up the space. Queen's moving up into this, and now we are live. There we go. All right. All right. So, yes, Mr. Bryce Hart is number 6 on the ladder from Brooks County High School. So, actually, Bryce has already played first place King Challenger. That is Suresh Kavale. Yeah, they have already played. That'll be an interesting rematch if it does happen. So, let's see here. Now, Mr. Hart is familiar with Walton chess. He's played him twice this year so far. So, he's got himself a little bit of Walton has always been good. They won the state team tournament 3 of the 4 years I played in high school. Wow. I mean, I know Walton's already good. I lacrosse was my game, and Walton is always a top 10 to top 15 every single year. So there's absolutely no surprise in my voice when I say that I know Walton is definitely a step above in a lot of the sports and academics that they do. So, but so far, I mean, hey, you're Bryce Hart has won one versus them this year, so very well done. So, but yeah, the state team tournament, I do remember when that was going on. That was something. I wish I was even remotely half as good to be on something like that, but no need to reminisce the old days. Mr. Hart is here playing with Prabhu Sarvesh to go and see. So, see some more development. We still only have pawns being traded moving in. And so Bryce Hart is moving queen up into the E-white space to go and possibly leverage out more on that side. Prabhu Sarvesh is going to have double rooks over there, but then you're also going to see the queen is supported by the rook, threatening out the C1 bishop. And so pawn's going to move up from the A2 to A3. All right, knight moves back. Let's see what we got here. Who's going to start the first chain of events is the real question here. It's the one thing about chess is that even though we had all these games prior, is that these ones are also going to take a long time as well. You start getting into the more familiar matches, but also the higher levels of chess is going to be a lot more time consuming, but that's why we have time constraints. So, but today we are going to try to end this tournament today. So we have this best of 3, and then afterwards we'll have the next best of 3, which we'll see if Mr. Hart can make it so that it's not Walton on Walton. So, not trying to throw shade to Walton, just saying, be nice to have other schools, but at the same time, Walton has definitely earned all of their spots in chess. So, to what Mr. Hubbard said, that great chess community here, and that King Challenger is actually aiming towards being valedictorian, which, I mean, chess is already hard enough to go ahead and play, but to compete on an international stage is absolutely crazy. So, still no pieces being traded. Prabhu Sarvesh is moving the knight up a little bit more. It currently is not under threat. It's currently right in the middle of everything. It's still supported by the bishop on f5. So, is Sarvesh looking to just take some space, put some pressure, or is he looking to force some trades out here is the real question. We'll have to wait and see. All right, we're then going to see the rook move over into the d file. Let's see what we are planning on doing here. Does move the knight back. We're not wanting to see who's going to make the first move right here. We're not looking at it. Really playing patience. Moving the bishop, or not the bishop, the knight down. My gosh, my words today are insane. So, does free the queen up into moving forward on the white spaces up if possible and if necessary. But that still is relatively a minefield. So, All right, we do see slant forward. We then do see queen up in front. We then see the queen being traded out. Okay. Knight is being moved up into inviting for a trade. Let's see if the trade is taken for the knight, or not the knight, the rook or the bishop. Definitely value leads to the rook, but we're going to reinforce and wait to see who is going to take the trade first. We still want positional advantage, so we're going to move it over so that we can get the final say so, as well as having our rook up first, if necessary. We're going to move the bishop up 1, not up 2, because the knight could definitely swoop in and take that free. But we are going to move it up 1 to go and try to reinforce that front row, as well as possibly play back towards the d1 space into taking a more enticing trade with a bishop instead of a rook. Okay, pawn moving up on Sarvesh's side. Holstein going to move bishop down like we talked about. Let's see. He does then go and take Sarvesh, then takes the rook. Bishop moves over. Knight moves up to threaten the bishop, but it is protected by the knight. Rook is moving over to threaten. We then see ourselves here at a standoff. Which one is going to happen first? Are we going to see the rook trade, or are we going to see the knight and bishop trade? Rook trade does happen first. Now does the rook? Yep, the bishop is going to be taken by the rook to get that out so that there is no trade with that. Overall, still pretty much a dead even tie. Sarvesh took one knight as opposed to Hart taking one bishop. So you do see just an alternative piece, not necessarily a point power differential in value. Sarvesh does have more pieces forward, while Bryce Hart does still have some pieces on back row, but does have king up moving forward a little bit with pawn line. So we could see a projection of force by Bryce Hart into the center with the pawns supported by some of these other pieces he still has remaining that are able to make effective trades. Bryce Hart, though, does have 340 on timer. Sarvesh does have right under 530. Okay, pawn trade, knight taking, pawn, and yep, knight, and then knight's taking knight, bishop's taking knight, and knight moves back over. It's not able to be traded back unless if we move pawn up 1, which does happen, but instead we are actually going to go and put our bishop into the c6 space. Okay, king does move back, not wanting to get pinched. So let's see. We still have the c1 bishop. We're going to move the pawn forward, advancing that line. Now the bishop is under threat. Do we move the bishop back, and how by how much is the question? We're going to move it back by 1. Just give a little bit of space, not more than necessary. Okay, what is Sarvesh's move here? Move the knight back onto starting space. Trying to see what Hart is willing to do here is the big question. Okay, king moves up, still again, trying to see who's willing to take the first series of movements that are going to change things. Knight does move over in a more supporting fashion towards kingside. Pawn moving up again, just slowly projecting force into the center space if possible. Knight does move down, does put threat on the f4 pawn, but it is protected by the king, but at the same time, it is also threatened again by the bishop on d6. So I would not be able to be traded back necessarily, but we are going to go move the bishop over so that the knight would be traded out if the pawn is taken. King moves up to go and basically further on that trade from happening. But also at the same time, yep, there you go. The former c1, now d2 bishop also protects that pawn. So pawn moves up, threatening the bishop. How far do we go? One space again, back to b3. Okay, no, we're going to take. Actually forcing that knight to be taken, and then the king is going to then take that bishop. So still, again, value is even. Board state slightly favors Bryce Hart, with the king being pushed up so far on Prabhu Sarvesh's side. The king still can be pressured out a little bit, so it is a little bit challenging, though. Bryce Hart is going to move up, support that pawn that is at risk of king take. Bishop does move back. Okay, pawn moving up, seeing the slow advance across to c. Pawn is, again, now at risk of being taken on that d4 space. King moves over to go and, yeah, prevent that trade. Bishop moves back to starting space. Pawn moves up to support the b5 pawn. We could see a trade happen from, oh no, okay, we're going to see the closure of that trade. And then now, yep, the bishop is going to move forward. Bishop technically could have tried to trade, but wouldn't have worked too well. King does move over, is still supporting that d4 pawn fairly well. All right, we're going to see pawn moving up, threatening the bishop. Bishop can take, but at the same time, yeah, pawn would then be avenged by the other bishop, and so we're going to move back. Closure again of those two pawns. So left side pawns are pretty much frozen, except if either of these blue tile bishops do take some pieces. So reinforce that pawn again that was being threatened, and Bryce Hart is down to 60 seconds. Got to go rapid. All right, moving up the pawn. Yep, open. Okay, closing. Closing the possibility of that trade. Bishop moves up. Bishop moves back. Push, pull. Let's see. All right. Yeah. Taking that one. Moves that up. Threatens that one. Let's see what we could do. If anything, we're going to take. Put the king in check. King is going to be forced to the right towards the pawn sets. Bishop moves back. Bishop moves down, protecting the pawns. Going again, threatening. Moving up. Nobody's willing to take trades in this moment. King is under threat now. Prabhu Sarvesh is going to decline a draw offered by Bryce. Now it is just Bryce Hart being timed out. Yeah. King takes forward. King takes. Bishop takes pawn. Bishop moves back, but king goes tries to protect, takes, trades, and that's going to be a timeout for Bryce Hart. Prabhu Sarvesh goes up 1-0 on this match. All right, let's see what the next game has for us right here. Been a long day with no caffeine. All right, Sarvesh opens pawn forward. Double pawn moving forward. Knight's in center. Pawn advancing. Whew, a lot of rapid. I'm just going to let it play out. Let's see how many moves it takes before a piece is taken. So far, 16 moves. Nothing. $20 moves, no pieces traded. It's the thing about this game that's just so funny sometimes. It's just how many pieces can be at risk of being taken, but nothing happens. Just piece development. Apologies. Move that a little bit further away, not too far so you can still hear me, but I'm trying to get over some sinus issues. All right. Nope. Declined again. What are we going to do? We might see our first piece taken. All right, we do. All right, so 25 and 26. 25 and 26 were the turns that the first two pieces were taken. There you go. That's crazy. The patience is absolutely insane on all of the above. All right. So one knight and one bishop have been traded so far. Pawn placement is advanced right now. Bricehart does have one pawn that is just stranded on an island, so not much you can do about that. We do see a pawn take, and so now the question is which pawn is going to be next? Oh my gosh, we're going to see a knight, a rook taken. Oof, that hurts. That hurts so early on. Pawn is taking, pawn supporting the e3 pawn. So, yeah, that's rough. Let's see how it is recovered. Queen moves up, puts pressure. Queen is then responding in kind. Okay. Knight moves up. We do see a knight trade possible. Knight take. Bishop takes knight. Knight trade completed. Bravo Service does have value with that rook. But yeah. Both knights have been taken. One rook has been taken from both sides. Sarvesh has lost the blue one, and then Bryce Hart has lost the white side, the white one. Continuing on in that, again, it still is that rook differential is what's killing it on the valuation side, but still is something that is there. So, okay. Pawn moving forward to decline g4 for moving forward, threatening any more pieces, but we still have the h3 pawn that is able to move forward and open up that file. We then see bishop moving onto e4, threatening the h7 pawn or furthering on advancement. But, yeah, moving the pawn out so it's not taken. My nose. Okay. Rook moves forward off of the first row. We're about to see a brute force. Bishop moves back. Okay. Rook moves all the way over. Okay. Bishop moves back. Got ourselves basically a reverse checkers game. Sarvesh has all of his pawns pretty much on white spaces, and then Bryce Hart has all of his on blue spaces. So, all right, pawn does take, but then we see a rook coming over to avenge. We do see the bishop is supporting it, but in reality here, Sarvesh does have the one value of the extra rook that he could possibly trade into it. So it's a little bit hard. Queen does step back into also furthering the conversation into that h4 space. That h4 space is kind of the linchpin right now to everything, but in reality, is it really going to be where everything starts? We do see now the F file is now at a trade opportunity on rooks. It's a very tricky trade. Okay, we do see Bryce Hart does take the trade. The bishop does take. So the h4 is still backed both sides relatively decently, but now queen advances. Queen is going to go back up into taking that space further. So queen moves over. Ooh. Ooh, that's scary. Private Service cannot move queen over, but now Bryce Hart is now declined in taking that space. He was able to go into the g3 space with one extra move of turn, but it is moved away by Prabhu Sarvesh's rook. King moves up from Bryce Hart, just trying to see again, pass the baton back to Prabhu Sarvesh to see which opponent is or who is going to do what first. Sarvesh takes his advantage and moves the bishop up, opening up that space a little bit more. Are we going to see some trades being offered? Is the real question. Sarvesh could take his queen and move it into that f3 space into offering a queen trade. Bryce Hart is down minute and 10 seconds right now in comparison, roughly. King moving up again. Sarvesh can move bishop down to e8 and put the king in check. Yep, puts the king in check. Bryce Hart moves forward, does move over. Bishop is protected by pawn and vice versa, and locks out the g6 space. F5 space is already locked out, moving the pawn forward to go and prevent much further movement. Let's see, is this okay? Queen trade is offered. Not much you can do to decline it effectively. Yep, takes and trades effectively there. Rook is the standing piece. Bishop moves over. Pawn does take. Pawn moves up. Bishop moves back, or rook moves back. Gosh. I look like I'm 200. I don't know the pieces' names. We are going to see a block on that. King moves up. Pawn moves up. Bryce Hart might try to entice bishop trade with the rook, with the pawn. Okay, we'll see. King moves up. King moves up again, takes value, takes space. Pawn is on a ledge now. Pawn does not have any backup. So pawn can be taken for free now. But king is instead actually going to just go and block it in. Okay, yep. Bryce Hart's bishop is not on the white spaces, so it's very hard for him to do much. Now he's pinched. Can't go right for the rook. Left is being currently pinched in by the bishop. Bishop moves up, slotting some spaces back. Playing ring around the rosy around this pawn on g4 right now. King does move over. Rook takes, king has to move back down. Rook moves over. Sacrifices, yep, that. Rook is going and cleaning out the pawns. Does, yeah, puts the king in check, but then does lose the bishop in turn. King is moving down. So forced to move back. King moves up, moves over, tries to get it, but again, and yeah, pawn take. Oh, declined. Oh, Sarvesh is going for the queen for the checkmate. No! Oh, tragedy. Double rook. Prabhu Sarvesh with a 2-0 win over Bryce Hart. That was very well done for both sides. Very well done. All right, and now it is Prabhu Sarvesh versus King Challenger for the finals. All right, so I got one more left. Who is going to take first place? So, Prabhu Sarvesh was 15 on the ladder. Suresh Kavale was first, and I believe I'm pronouncing that name correctly. If I'm not, I very much so apologize. Oh, no, didn't mean to challenge. I'm trying to watch. There we go. Is this the game? This is the game. All right, here we go. Walton High School running the whole table right here. Very quick, rapid movements. This is definitely a matchup that has been played and played and played and played and played. I'm going to wait to commentate until the game slows down a little bit because this is going insanely fast already. But Brooks County represent. Good job, Bryce. Very good job. As well as to you, Mr. Holt. Whew. Okay. It slowed down a little bit. We did have one 20-second turn, so I have some moments here. All right, so Sarvesh and Challenger both have castled, but then Sarvesh moved queen up a little bit further. Challenger does have the queen up, but does also have knights double stacked in front of that castle. So pawn is moving forward. We are seeing a faster progression there. Knight is taking, but then is trading. Pawn moving up. Do we see pawn take? Third place match. Who would be the person to do a third place match? That would be Slickback would be the person to go and do that with. I don't know. That is a very great question that I should have had prepared. Yep, you're right. I did have that option, and I believe I did turn that on. Let me look and see. That might be. Let me try to get that going. All right. Because that was going to be. Yeah. So Slickback would be the one. All right, I'm messaging to see if we're going to have a third place match because I'm very intrigued to see what that would be like. So we'll see. Again, this is my first tournament, so a lot of things have been all over the place, and I apologize. But, it's for fun. It's for bragging rights, so which King Challenger doesn't need any more bragging rights, international player. But, for the rest of us, it would be nice to have more stuff. But at the same time, hey, again, it's for fun. This is, again, we know coming into this, it's a recreational league, so it'd be a lot of fun to do. And so I tried to host this so that we can have some more fun. That's always the hope. All right, a little bit of development going on. We have the exact same pieces being taken. We have 2 pawns, a bishop, a knight, and a rook. Fairly decent trades being happening here. Let me open split view and get chess up just to see if that is happening. So, currently, they're not online. Let me see if I even have them friended. I do not. That was. What was that? Yeah, I don't have Slickback friended. So. Let me. They didn't play. Duh. All right, so I can play Bryce Hart for a third place match, and I can get absolutely pulverized because I know I'm going to lose. But at the same time, King Challenger and Prabhu Sarvesh are over here, so I would need to also be commentating. So let's see. All right, let's see. Messages. I am not sorry. I had a feeling, but at the same time, wanted to showcase that, that I am willing to get pulverized. So showing it to people that, it's not just for nothing. Continuing on over there, still no pieces have been exchanged, but at the same time, the placement of everything has changed drastically. So, all right. Bryce, if you want to challenge, go ahead, dude. I have it ready. So I will absolutely lose. It is a guaranteed win for you. So we can have it going as long as they're still going. But moving on, we do see, again, rooks did trade earlier. We do see the e7 bishop is actually still being threatened in that. Bryce Hart does have the game here. So, all right, you're going to watch me get pulverized on the right side, and then on the left side, I'm still going to be commentating. So, all right, let's see how bad I do. Let's absolutely see how bad I do. Yep, turn one blunder. Awesome, love it. I'm doing so fantastic already, aren't I? Yeah, I don't pre-move, and it wouldn't matter anyways because my screen is being shown. So, no, my other game. No, give it back. Give it back. I didn't want that. No, give me. Watch over here. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right. Okay. One more each pawn has been taken, but that still is very much so interlocked with this absolute just mess of chaos being developed out here. So, okay. All right. Boom. Okay. King is being moved again. King Challenger is trying to see Sarvesh's advancement move. All right. Yep. Okay. Don't be bad. Do the right move. Whatever the right move is, we'll figure it out. Okay. All right. Cool. I'll take that trade. Okay. Apologies. All right. So, Prabhu's down again on time, but pieces are still even. This is definitely a matchup that has been played over and over and over. So Question is necessarily is it going to repeat itself or what's going to happen? So knights are being moved. We do see a fork on the king and the rook, which is very dangerous. And so there's yep, the pawn being taken, but then again here, but now again, knight can take. So definitely a queen trade just happened right there. I don't see any other reason necessarily why that trade would have been happening. I lost a whole minute in that, but that's okay. Again, I'm not designed to win. I'm just designed to be a body here. Okay. Okay. So queen is either going to be taken by the knight or the pawn, but the problem is with the knight, it then leaves. Okay, yep, that's going to be taken. We then see the rook open, then the rook is going to be traded away. And now both sides are left with, again, only one piece of opposite value in that instance. So, all right. All right, me being bad. Okay. Okay, pawn up one. All right. King's moving down. Okay. Yep. Doubling back on that. Okay, king is moving back on challenger's side. Prabhu Sarvesh is trying to advance with pawns, but king challenger still has a fresh line of pawns stacked up right there. So it's going to be a little bit hard pressed. King challenger also still has 5.5 minutes roughly in this instance available of time. So, yep. Knows automatically that Sarvesh is going to want to trade that right now. Okay, my turn. Okay, we see a castle. Boom. What is my next move? Boom. Okay. Pawn moving forward. Bishop moving up. Threatening this one if the king moves away. Also keeping this file open. Okay, interesting. I will take it, I guess. How do I want to play this out? Not terrible. Can get worse. Safety, it doesn't do much. Sets me up for a risk, etc. All are big no-nos. We're going to play it risky, though. I like to see what new things can happen, especially when I'm turning off my brain. All right, seeing some pawns moving up. We're going to see king moving over, though. King is locked on that. Okay, boom. That's a bad move. All right, over here, bishop moves back over here on this side from blocking off the king over here. Sarvesh is at 1:20. Let's see, what is he going to do? Yeah, this one is predictable. Yeah, not much necessarily to do a ton about that. We're just going to have to go get a little bit out of danger as much as possible. Okay, Sarvesh is at 1 minute now. Pieces are still very wildly ranged apart. Okay. Knight moves, puts me in check, of course, and puts me at a fork, which I still lose out. It's just, how am I going to take the trade? Which is all bad, because I can't move here to go and get the queen to take the trade, and here is a death sentence, pretty much. So let's just go into the death sentence. Why not? Probably service 33 seconds, having to play a little bit of rapid right here. We're losing massive amount of pieces very quickly. And then, yep, go there. Pawn moving up. Challenger's looking to get a pawn. All right, we then see a check. King is moving over. King takes the queen that was just served up. Challenger just needs to time him out, honestly, and prevent him from getting any more pieces, and he will be A-okay. Okay. Goes down to it. Oh, let's see. How's it going? Is Sarvesh going to take it? Oh my gosh. All right. Sarvesh takes game 1. All right. Now let's get this crap back on track so that I'm not absolutely a toaster. There. I should have gone here instead, but it's okay. Yeah, that's just poor play on my part. It's okay. All right. Let's get the next one going. Let's see how this goes. Okay, double pawn opening, knight, knight. One offensive, one defensive. Bishop is a knight. Yep, there's a lot. I can't even go that fast. Cannot go that fast. All right, take. Okay. Not optimal, but never always is. All right, let's go. I'm trying. It's just now your players are going way too fast for me to even keep up. So, here. Let's try it. Okay. We see the double knight stack from Challenger blocking the bishop moving up. Game has slowed a little bit now. I didn't watch that, but at the same time, I heard it was great. Snoop at the Olympics, I heard it was a hilarious time. So, all right. Yeah, that's not great at all for me. Hmm. I lose that trade. Let's try this. He could just pawn me down 1, and then I'm at a worse position, but we'll see. Okay. Sarvesh does have 1 pawn piece advantage here. So is Sarvesh having the game here? Or is Challenger going to go and launch a comeback here? Sarvesh is taking some time here, 45 seconds on that. But as we saw, Sarvesh didn't need the full time to go and win. It's my turn. Yep. That's what I was talking about. Moving just down 1. I can't respond. And it's tragic. Most of my moves are dead. Okay. All right. Let's focus on, because I've killed so much time on this game. Let me try to just finish up my game real quick and play it out. This very pitiful performance of third place match by me. Intriguing. Okay, Sarvesh is bringing up the queen. Let's see what he does. Let's see what Mr. Hart does, since I'm absolutely running out of time. I lose the piece anyways, so I lose something. My trade is bad. Yeah. I'm gonna have to just give up the knight, I'm pretty sure. Well, actually, isn't this the superior move? Well, it was until that. And now the rook is lost still. Never mind. That was bad. Oh well. I thought I had a moment. Did not have a moment. Alright, yep. Let's try to salvage some pieces here and at least not lose by an insane differential. Awesome. And that's going to be mate in 2. Unless if Hart decides to drag it out, which, I doubt it. Put me out of my misery. Okay. And the pawns to end my suffering. And I can give him an actual game, hopefully, next time, and actually try with a little more brain power. But, over here, again, they're just running the whole board, and I'm over here running for my life. Absolutely insane. Yeah, we're just gonna. It should be just queen to g7 to pretty much hand GG. Oh, okay, never mind. Yep. And then now it should just be closing the gate. Well, yeah, there you go. All right. Let me at it again. Let me at it. All right. I'm not going to play rated so that I don't destroy your rating. AKA play a lower person and destroying your rating that way, not by me beating you. All right, here we go. More brain power dedicated. And I actually did it again. No. Stop it. Give me Challenger and Servash. All right. Okay. Let's not immediately throw on game start. Okay. Boop. Okay, we do see rook slanting right here. Okay. Knight is moving up, looking to take some pressure right here. Okay. I can't develop pieces because I'm being chased, which, super fun. Probably going to be chased one more turn. Yep, there it is. And I developed nothing. Yep, there we go. Okay. I'm receiving a phone call. Give me one moment. All right, I have returned. My wife was wondering where I am for dinner, so fun times. Oh. All right, so we do see that Challenger does have some piece values up here. Excuse me. Okay. Boom. Now it goes back to Sarvesh. Interesting. It was over here +3. Now it's over here +2. Interesting. Okay, the knight or the rook's matching. Let's see which one is traded first. It's hilarious. Both queens and knights are supporting each other, and they're both staring each other down like that. Happens all the time. All right, so yep, take. Pawn take, I take back. No take. Interesting. Queen is being leveraged. That's why. Let's see here. Let's see here. I am going to. Can't develop a knight because the knight that would be developed is out. And let's try this. On that side, queen has pre-slotted move. They exactly knew where they were going to go. Let's go here. Knight's going to take, and I'm not. Oh, wow. That, yep. That always happens. I never pay attention to that, apparently. That's happened to me multiple times already. All right, so how do I salvage any of this? AKA, really can't. Yeah, that's just terrible on my part. Played that awfully. So let's see how much I can harass until that happens. That's, yep. That was not a great move on my part. And yeah, let's try this to do something. All right. Challenger is on the back row on Sarvesh and forcing him off that back row. That's so. I could see that from a mile away, but there's not much I can do about it. So let's try to fade away from it and do something different. All right, now we're seeing dead even. It is 3 pawns, 2 bishops, 2 knights, and 2 rooks are taken here. Queen does back out, puts me at check though. So if I go here, then I'm pretty much kind of setting myself up for really being pinched again. And I am not in a positive light at all. Sarvesh is at 143 on time and Challenger's at 515 with dead even pieces. Board state, Challenger is really up in there now. He is going to be threatened back, pushed back. Knight's being developed out so that I can go and get pinched on that, which is fun. I want that, but I can't have that. So let's see what I got. I don't feel like I'm doing any better now that I'm actively paying more attention, but hey, he might think so. We'll see. Yep. That's not fun because can't do that, can't do that. No, just do that. Okay, let's see about this. Yep, takes that one. Nothing I can do. I wanted to use that, but that would just be that thing gets obliterated. So this thing already right here is probably about to get obliterated here in a second. Yep, here you go. Nothing to do about that. Service just at 60 seconds. Both still have queens and pawns. Exact same pieces still. Challenger still is kind of holed up over here on the left-hand side with this. Obviously, this early take on the pawns right here is kind of what's forcing that space. So, Challenger does have pawns to protect from Sarvesh moving forward into trying to take a piece off the board. All right, let's see here. What can I actually do to do anything? I don't want to give the pawn, but at the same time, it's probably just going to have to. That's a dead piece. This is just currently not utilizing anything. Queen trade is offered. Let's see if it's taken. Queen trade is offered and is going to be taken by both sides. All right. Try this. I don't know. Let's try it. And yep, Challenger goes and wins. Sarvesh does go and resigns. So that is 1-1 right here on our best of 3. Okay, yeah, we do have that, which I still have to give up the pawn for, but, you know, I tried. Oh, yeah. Nope, that's just... Love that for me. Absolutely just misread the entire play. 17 material up. That hurts. That hurts. What do I even do is the real question here. Really not much to do. I can... Yeah. All right. Oh, okay. Queen coming directly out for that immediate pawn take. Definitely a different open for Sarvesh here. Challenger's still going relatively the same with the double knight open. Cool, I'll take that, but I'm still left with nothing. Let's see how quickly I get dismantled. Boom, boom, boom. And then, yep, nothing to do there. Boom. Moving myself into getting checkmated even faster. Ta-da! Awesome. Yep. There you go. Hopefully that was your consolation match right there, because that was absolutely terrible on my part. Wow. I need to get back to playing more. Playing chess, that is. So I'm pretty much... all of the other games I'm investing a lot of time in, and my chess skills have definitely just plummeted off. I doubt I'm even at 800, in all honesty. That was very tragic, but very good job, Mr. Hart. You've definitely made Mr. Holt proud. I could guarantee you that, in absolutely just curb stomping me, because yeah, I absolutely got crushed. All right, let's see what we got. Okay, developing a knight towards center. Okay, pawn moving up, threaten the queen. Queen is very much so trapped right now. That is very problematic. Okay, we're gonna look to take... yep, queen is traded right there. Oh, what? He surrendered. Mr. Holt says he's not proud at all. He went 5-0 senior year at state. The master was not passed by the student. I want to see y'all play then. That's not right now because my wife is definitely like, hey, dinner, and I'm also starving. But I would absolutely love to just watch y'all play because that would be pretty great. And maybe, just maybe, we can actually set up like a tournament where we can go chess coaches versus chess players. I don't know. Um, but yeah, that is going to be King Challenger taking first place right there. That was genuinely wondering what was going through right there. But Challenger with the 2-1 victory, and that is going to be it for the tournament. Tournament is now absolutely done. So, third place match, we're gonna just say that Bryce Hart got that one because he beat me, and I didn't bring it up to Slickback's coach earlier. So, yes, and as Mr. Holt says, like and subscribe. Thank you all very much for tuning in. I am planning on making some highlights. I know chess highlights are kind of like, okay, what is that really going to be? But at the same time, just watching some of these moments over again would be pretty good for everybody. So if you could tune in on those. This is it for esports for us for the spring season. So we will be doing stuff over the summer, try to do some online tournaments and what we can. And yeah, if y'all can just, watch us, that'd be great. Give feedback on anything. We're limited in what we can and can't do, but I like to do stuff like this. It's pretty basic. I can, bring it up where have the whole screen taken over by chess matches and having to manually do it, but at the same time, it's all about fun. Hoping that as the program develops, we can also do stuff like this and we can get some prizes behind it. Fingers crossed in the future. So we'll see. Might just do some fun chess tournament ideas where the rules are a little bit different. So, but we will see. Again, I have to develop out the program before I can do much of anything. So, um, but yeah, no, I mean, thank you all for tuning in. Um, again, wanted to say thank you to some of the people that are helping keep our program afloat. We have our custom mouse pads that are made by my mom. And then let's see here, grab some other stuff real quick since I have some people watching. We have our logo. Our logo is has been done on wood. So our logo has been done on a wooden frame that was I more or less kind of just finished. But this was done by our art teacher, Ms. Carter. Thank you very much, Ms. Carter, for doing this because it's pretty cool. I created this logo, so it's kind of cool to see it in a big picture like this. And then moving on, some of the finds. I found a brand new thing like this at a Bargain Hunt store. And I found an off-brand PS5 controller. So again, some cool things. So thank you all very much for tuning in. Hopefully that next season we'll have more games to service and more cool stuff, and things will be smoother and look cooler. So, but thank y'all very much.